Data Speaks is one of the pillars of this conference. We begin with the presentation of the Western Balkans PAR Monitor 2024-2025, Weber's flagship data-driven assessment of reform progress across key PAR pillars, seen through the eyes of civil society and citizens. I invite our moderator, Ms. Njomza Arifi from Group for Legal and Political Studies, to kick off the panel.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you had a little time to relax and have a coffee. We're back with a conference. As my colleague mentioned, in this session we will be speaking for the results of the Western Balkan PAR monitoring for years 2024-2025. At the beginning of the session, I will invite my colleagues, Miloš Đinđić, who is a Weber lead researcher, and the colleagues from the Weber research team, Milica Divljak and Milica Škorić, to present the results. And afterwards, we will proceed with the discussants. For this panel, we will have with us Ms. Marija Hajduković from the Ministry of Public Administration in Montenegro. Unable to attend in person, she will join us via Zoom. Mr. Edmir Sejdiu from the Ministry of Public Administration and Digital Transformation from Kosovo. Mr. Sejdiu, I invite you to join the panel. Ms. Aneta Raić from the Public Administration Reform Coordinator's Office in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I invite Ms. Raić to join us. And Mr. Metodija Dimovski from Community Development Institute from North Macedonia. Mr. Dimovski, please join us, and thank you for being here. Since we're a bit late on time, I would immediately proceed with giving the floor to our excellent colleagues from the Weber team who have tirelessly worked for years in producing the results and for the Weber to become what it is, a credible source of information, as I have previously mentioned. Please.
Thanks, Njomza. A big thank you goes to all the research team, not just us here who will present today. Welcome once again. I am Miloš Đinđić from Weber team. Let me just check if the presentation works. Okay, perfect. So today we will present the findings from the 24-25 cycle. This conference marks 10 years of Weber. It is also a milestone for PAR Monitor. This is the fourth time that we did it. This time slightly different. So it means it's another opportunity to reflect, look back, and see where we are, right? Before turning to the findings, let me just briefly explain how and what we do. So as I said, this is the fourth cycle. What was 2017-18 back in the day, it's now 24-25. So from the beginning, thematic organization was following the OECD Sigma framework. 6 core areas, and again, these core areas are used for years now. They've been long serving to assess administrative reform progress in the Western Balkans, and these are central to the EU accession process as well. So that hasn't changed, and it won't in the future. Despite the general framework remaining the same, methodology has evolved over time, and this was the first time that we have applied a slightly refreshed approach. There were two main reasons. First, Sigma has changed its own assessment framework and scoring system. We followed suit in order to keep synergies and the multiply effects of our work. And second, after 3 monitoring cycles, it was also a time to refresh, steer things a little bit, and see what can we improve to improve sensitivity and usability potentially of our results. Anyway, long story short, we have, when it comes to structure, we have simplified it, streamlined it, I would say. Now it has one performance indicator per public administration reform area. We have transitioned to a scale from 0 to 100 scores instead of 0 to 5. This is, we follow the step of Sigma in this. When it comes to data sources, we have more reliance this time around on the public perceptions across all reform areas. Back in the day, it was mostly public perceptions were mostly reserved for service delivery, okay? And now we tried to penetrate public perception results in every administrative reform area. We have introduced something that we call the key informant interviews, meaning in interviews with non-state actors, experts who are knowledgeable in the topics that we talk about, that we explore, and using those conversations for assessing specific outcomes and impacts of reforms. Finally, the reporting side has been also revised. Previously, we had single report per administration and one Western Balkan overview. It was a big read, so to say. So now the reporting activities produce for each PAR area, one Western Balkan overview and 6 national PAR monitors, totaling 42 reports. So it is more focused reading if you want to focus on one area, not on the others. It is easier that way to deal with the workload. Now, before, so despite the changes in the methodology, our focus has always been on transparency, inclusiveness, citizen orientation, and so on. So we were never interested in the internal dynamics and mechanics of the administrative reforms. And with this methodological refresh, this is also the case, of course. Just briefly about the approaches and sources. So what you will see as our featured results is based on a review of documentation and websites, analysis of administrative samples, free access to information, interviews, as I mentioned, with key non-state actors, and public perception survey. Just to highlight, so the reports have been published, they are out, except for one area for the organization, accountability and oversight, which will be published shortly after the conference. What you will hear and see on the next slides is essentially a selection of feature findings for the 24-25 cycle. After the lunch, for the deeper dive after the lunch, we have breakout sessions that dedicated to specific topics, so please feel free to join them depending on your preference. So with that in mind, let's now turn to evidence.
Hello everyone from my side also. Today's session will begin with the findings for the area strategy for PAR, which we monitored through our indicator transparency and inclusiveness of the development and management of the PAR agenda. In this area, the Western Balkans average was 35.9 points out of 100, with the best scoring administration being Serbia with 65.5 points. The administration with the least amount of attained points was Bosnia and Herzegovina with 17 points. We observed the reform process in this area through 2 key aspects, the first one being transparency and inclusiveness in developing PAR planning documents. The assessment here was focused on 16 PAR planning documents which were adopted across all administrations since the previous PAR monitor, which was for the cycle 2021-2022. The assessment showed that minimal standards of transparency and inclusiveness are often not met in individual consultation processes that take place at the early stage of development of PAR planning documents, with minimal standards of transparency and inclusiveness being a minimal duration of 15 days, publication of all necessary information and documentation, and organization of at least one meeting with relevant stakeholders, external actors mostly. Here, the only case where all of these criteria were met were both sample documents in North Macedonia and 1 out of 2 documents in Serbia. However, when consultations were organized, improvements were noted in terms of how responsible institutions provided complete information to stakeholders that took part in the process, which again encompassed information on the duration, information on channels which were to be used for submission of inputs, and provision of all necessary working and preparatory documentation. And again, the standards were met, all standards were met only in sample documents in North Macedonia and Serbia. However, one of the negative aspects of which was noted in this monitoring cycle was that most administrations or relevant institutions failed to publish detailed feedback on the comments they received during the consultation process. Detailed feedback meant the clear notation of those who submitted the comment itself, and how they were treated and rationale for their treatment, with Kosovo standing out here as the administration which recorded the best practices in terms of reporting on conducted consultations. Finally, towards the end of the development process, the institutions mainly opened the consultation process to the public via public debates, which was the case for 10 out of 16 planning documents. The second aspect we observed in this area was transparency and inclusiveness of PAR monitoring and coordination structures. At the political level of coordination, the only administration where CSOs were formal members of the political level bodies was Montenegro, with 3 administrations allowing participation of non-state actors or civil society organizations, but only based on invitation. And this was the case in Albania, Serbia, and North Macedonia. On the other hand, formal membership in the administrative level coordination bodies was granted to CSOs in North Macedonia and Serbia, while again in Albania it was granted, but only upon invitation. However, again, one of the aspects that negatively influenced the findings in this area was the fact that despite CSOs were granted formal involvement, the meetings of both level structures, so both administrative and political, took place rarely or irregularly. So the possibility for CSOs to contribute meaningfully was very constrained or limited during the observation period. Finally, relevant information on the work of these structures, such as decisions on their establishment, rules of procedure, and meeting notes, were publicly available and regularly updated only in Serbia, which was, at the time of the monitoring, the only administration which had a single platform dedicated to all documents related to PAR, including the documents related to coordination structures. And this platform, you probably all know, it's the online monitoring tool. Moving on to the area of policy development and coordination, here the entire assessment was focused on how principles of transparency and openness were embedded throughout all aspects of the area. Western Balkans' average of attained points here was 30.9, with the best scoring administration having 41 points, which was Montenegro, and the last administration scoring 24.75, which was again Bosnia and Herzegovina. Here we focused on 4 crucial aspects, the first of them being transparency of government decision making, where we note that the publication of key government session materials was not thoroughly regulated and thus resulted in uneven transparency of government decision making. By materials, here we observe agendas, meeting notes, decisions taken at the sessions, and press releases published after the sessions. We noted that agendas and meeting minutes were generally available in Montenegro and BNH, while the decisions the decisions adopted during the sessions were available in those 2 administrations, plus Albania and Kosovo, but they were not either timely published or published in an accessible manner. Moving on to the second aspect, which is transparency of government planning and reporting. Here we observed the practice of publishing here we actually observed 4 types of government planning documents and reports, which were government annual work plans, multi-annual government programs, European integration plans, and reports on all of these documents. The assessment showed that the practice of publishing all of these documents is irregular across the region, with only Montenegro showing a near complete publication, practice of complete disclosure of all said documents. When it comes to their content, multi-annual government programs generally did include performance indicators and reported on them, but annual government work plans were mainly largely output-oriented. At the same time, citizen-friendly presentation of key information was rare or limited to certain visual elements or some summaries, such as in the case of European integration plan reports for Kosovo, Serbia, and Montenegro. Well, at the same time, open data on government performance was absent at the level of the entire region. The third aspect that we observed was transparency and inclusiveness of policymaking and legislation development, where the assessment showed that these principles are not equally elaborated and fully embedded in the current legal frameworks in the Western Balkans, with working group transparency being one of the major gap across the legal frameworks, followed by transparency and inclusiveness in the development of secondary legislation. Another major gap in the institutional setup was the lack of quality control of compliance with the consultation requirements, since there was no center of government body which was assigned a clear oversight function in the entire region. When it comes to practice, the results across the region are very uneven, both in terms of conducting impact assessments and conducting public consultations during the development of public policy documents and legislation, primary legislation. The results, as I said, vary, but not only among administrations, but also vary among the type of document observed, so among public policy documents and legal acts. When consultations do take place, they take place often at the later stages of the process rather than earlier, but reports on conducted consultations are generally available, contain all necessary elements, but in Montenegro and Serbia, some issues were noted in terms of the comprehensiveness of those reports, since not all of them encompassed all forms of consultations that took place during one process. Finally, in this aspect, the majority of citizens across the region, which was 54% on average, did not perceive themselves as having meaningful opportunities to participate in policy and legal development in their respective administrations. The final aspect observed here was transparency and inclusiveness of policy implementation, evaluation, and parliamentary scrutiny. And the monitoring showed that parliamentary procedures across the region formally allow stakeholders to participate in public hearings, although it is based on invitation and often not implemented in practice. But at the same time, it did occur in several administrations, which were Albania, North Macedonia, and Montenegro. Moving on to the monitoring and evaluation of policy documents, the analysis showed that monitoring reports for sectoral policy documents are not regularly published across all observed policy areas across the entire region, while publishing of ex-post evaluations for said policy documents is also largely absent, indicating a huge gap in terms of how policies are monitored, evaluated, and consequently how new policy cycles are informed. Finally, the availability of information on draft acts in procedure on Parliament websites varied considerably. Here we observed draft laws, explanatory notes for draft laws, impact assessment reports, and consultation reports, and all of these aspects were available only in Montenegro for all laws which were in procedure during the monitoring period. They were followed closely by Serbia, who lacked certain consultation reports for certain laws which were in procedure at the time of monitoring. Thank you for your attention. Milica?
Thank you, Milica. Hello from my side to everyone. We are moving forward to public service and human resource management. In this area, the Western Balkan average is less than a third, and with the best administration here being Kosovo, and the last one being North Macedonia, but Montenegro being really close to this with 24 points. The first sub-indicator in PSHRM was reporting on civil service and saving some data about it. What we have discovered is that the Western Balkan administrations are not keeping data on statistics about civil service, and when they do, they are not publishing it openly online. The positive example was recorded in Bosnia and Herzegovina and I think Montenegro, where we find something available online in open data format. Open data, it's not so regular to find something in that, so it's important to say that. Temporary hiring, moving to it, is largely unregulated. We have it regulated when we are hiring fixed-term civil servants, but only in Kosovo through via open procurement procedures, contracted staff is hired. When administrations are hiring based on merit, unfortunately, we discovered that there is a high administrative burden in terms of that, especially in administrations that are, for example, Bosnia and Herzegovina, where, I'm sorry. The process is less burdensome in Serbia because here we only need to apply just like one paper to submission, and in later stages it's possible to add some documentation. And the only administration in Western Balkan is North Macedonia, where you can supplement missing documentation. Selection outcomes like transparency, two administrations, Kosovo and Serbia, publish like reasoning at the end of the process, and Bosnia and Montenegro do not publish anything about reasoning for selection committees. Albania and North Macedonia, they publish some information about work of selection committees. Also, Bosnia and Herzegovina provides accompanying reasoning for annulments, and that is the only administration doing that in Western Balkans. Yeah, really important, public trust in the merit base is really low, being the lowest in Bosnia and Herzegovina, with 87% of people not believing that people are based on merit, and people are most trustworthy in Albania and Kosovo. Serbia is somewhere around this average. Next topic is merit-based selection and protection of top management from undue political influence. In two administrations, politically appointed bodies hold the power over top management appointment, that is in Serbia and in Montenegro. Notably, exception is North Macedonia, where political discretion largely persists. Competition for top management posts remain low. We did some sample and through FOI requests, and the region average stands for around 2, it's less than 2 candidates per top management vacancy. Acting appointments, poorly controlled. We talk a lot about that, especially here in Serbia, but the thing is that in Bosnia and Herzegovina and Montenegro, acting appointments by law can be made selected from outside of civil servants. It's done also in Serbia, but it's not by law. But in these two countries' administrations, that can be done from outside the civil servants. Civil service. And North Macedonia is also here exception because the legislation does not regulate the position of or appointment of acting managers. Poorly controlled, time limits are frequently extended, as we all know. There is no evidence of merit-based acting appointments in any administration, and as I said, and we came to the last sub-indicator in PSHRM, it's salary transparency. Despite legal framework, only 2 administration public general salary data and only 2 disclose salary information in the vacancy announcement. I think it's North Macedonia, and I cannot remember the second one. Bosnia, yeah, thank you. Moving on to organizational accountability and oversight, with North Macedonia being the best in this area, and Albania and Kosovo scoring the 34 points. Yes. What we did here is this is the area we did the last in our research, because we sent the FYI request during the entire monitoring, and then we keep track on the institutions we sent it to, how long we waited for a response, was it in the legal framework, if we are rejected, did we get why that happened, or is there administrative silence, etc. And then we gathered all that information, and we find out, we get these results. So 1 in 5 requests receive no response with legal deadlines. In 20% of the case, responses do not contain the requested information in full, and refusals are provided in less than 1 in 5 cases. Also, what's happened a lot is that if you said that you want the information to be provided to you by email, then sometimes you can get it. You can get your information, but via regular mail. Or what also happened from time to time is that you get the answer, but it's not the information you want. So that is all you need. Then we need to put like, did we receive the response? Yes, we did. But is that the information we needed? No, it's not. Annual monitoring reports, those are monitoring reports from commissioners, are not published consistently. Citizen-friendly guidance materials are available in half of administrations, and detailed data on sanctions are almost always absent. Talking about that is just only in Serbia and in Montenegro, we can have some of these informations from that annual monitoring reports. Then moving on to proactive transparency. That is a legal framework in most administrations specify what authorities must publish online, but in practice there are some gaps. And around 70% of citizens know they have the right to request public information, but only half of them believe that authorities really want to give them those informations back. And at the end, I just want to tell that we have well-developed legal structure around this topic, but there is a persistent gap between what law promises to us as citizens and what we actually experience from the institutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Milica. Before giving you a glimpse in service delivery and digitalization area results, many things that we present here are based on the analysis of sample of 7 services. So 3 types of registration: vehicle, property, and business. And issuing personal documentation such as ID and passports, and value-added tax declaration and payment. So this is our framework for assessing how things go in practice. So basically 7 purely administrative services. Global scores, the average is somewhat around 50%, so oopsie, 44.6. The best scoring administration is Albania with 57.25, and the last one is Bosnia and Herzegovina with 35.5. We've spoken this morning about the human-centered design approach to services. So you will see the first point here that we have found no evidence whatsoever of user involvement in service design for the observed sample services, which basically can mean that even if that happens and people are involved and asked about their concerns and needs when services are redesigned, maybe this is not communicated enough or documentation is not kept. I don't know, but the fact is that no such evidence was found. Feedback mechanisms for improving services are generally available, some forums, chats, and so on, not fully across the sample and across the region. And the end result of such feedback is not publicly known, usually, meaning how many feedback points you got, what you did with it as a service provider, and so on. This nicely translates actually into public opinion, because the majority of citizens in the region, on average, don't believe they can influence the service design. Moving forward to some other aspects of citizen-centric service design delivery, one-stop shops. So basically a single administrative point where one can handle different things in one place, are mainly regulated in the region and are present in the form of either physical or online, digital one-stop shops. E-government, so government portal for e-services are one of those examples. However, when people were asked in the region about the needing to resubmit documents that they have already submitted previously, when being in contact with the administration, 67 of them reported that they had to resubmit documents, which is a negative result that is quite high and speaks of the let's say, cumbersome implementation of the once-only principle, which behind this is the interoperable data exchange between state authorities, which is, let's say, a precondition for many, if not any, service redesign. So this stands as a, let's say, one alert finding to maybe promote more and work more on application of the once-only principle across administrative services. Also, we spoke about the live events this morning. There is no obligation as such for regional administration to implement live event approach. No legal obligation mandate, but in two cases, in North Macedonia and Serbia, services offered at the e-government portals are actually organized around live events, essentially proactively grouping a couple of services around, marriage topic or similar important things in life. We found no transparent information on the key service performance metrics in the region. So service volumes, processing times, or service costs, meaning they're not published by service provider up at the moment we did the research. Speaking about the accessibility of services, core information about the services offered is mainly present online, and citizens can find mostly everything, such as procedural steps, forms to be filled, instruction guidance, contact details, fees, and so on. Also, sample services were evenly territorially distributed, meaning that they can be obtained at local level. This also nicely correlates with the public perception finding. Majority of citizens in the region report easy access on average, 58%, and for in-person physical services and 57% for online ones. Moving to digital transformation, so central service delivery portals that facilitate easy access to services is available in all administrations except in Bosnia and Herzegovina, where there are different entity level or even cantonal level in federation portals running. Digital signatures and payments are generally, but not fully, enabled yet. Across the sample services we observed, for example, in Kosovo, there is no effectively payment still. Also, there is partial implementation in Montenegro when it comes to e-payment and digital signatures, and so on. So the situation is uneven, and these things are gaining ground as the time passes by. Finally, for this area, key informants have highlighted that there is an uneven distribution of digitalization benefits, which poses a risk to those who are digitally less literate or belong to a marginalized group, so they cannot easily reap the benefits of digitalization as some other people can. In the public financial management area, we have the average score of 55. This is the highest average score out of all 6 areas. The best here is who's the best here? No, it's North Macedonia, I think. Jule, please. I think it's North Macedonia. I forgot for a second. And the last is, once again, Bosnia and Herzegovina. I mean, probably you already kind of, realize that Bosnia is generally trailing, Bosnia and Herzegovina generally trailing, and is holding the last position in 4 out of 6 areas. Nevertheless, let's get back to a topic. Budget formulation. What is characteristic of the region is that in no administration the budget development process, like from the start, is open for public involvement. When the annual budgets are being formulated, there is a partial exception in Albania, where legally speaking, budget organizations need to consult non-state actors when programming budget for the next year and next 3 years, but it does not translate directly into practice. So there is very limited space. It is mostly reserved to public debate. So from public debates or public consultation, once the draft budgets are already kind of developed and defined. Public perception basically confirms this, as 3/4 of citizens in the region believe they have no opportunity to influence how public funds are spent. Speaking about more positive things, you probably know that for some time citizen budgets are being available at the state level are being available across the region. There are no similar practices of presenting in a citizen-friendly way budget execution, though there is a notable exception, which is Montenegro, where citizen-friendly presentations of capital investment, so capital budget execution, were published by the executive and the parliament independently. Finally, perceived budget transparency is quite low. On average, 1/3 of people in the region believe that the information on how budget funds are spent is actually published. Moving back to two last topics in the PFM areas, public procurement and external audit. Speaking about the transparency of the public procurement system at the general systemic level, this is ensured mainly through reporting practice of central procurement bodies, which regularly publish their reports. There are generally two types of these bodies. Central procurement body responsible for overseeing and improving the system, and the central body for protecting the rights of bidders. What also contributes to transparency here is the public procurement portals that are up and running in the entire region, and they contain varying degrees of user-friendly features. Moreover, in the region, open procurement methods dominate in practice. Range goes from 80 to 100 to even 100%. Here we observed all procurement methods that have where there is a need to publish a call, at least in the initial phase. So even a good negotiated procedure with publishing a notice is included here. Despite using the open methods to a high amount, competitiveness is relatively low. You can see that the regional range is from 49 to 75% of procedures where there were more than one tenderers. This 49 is Serbia. And by the way, this is data for 2024. However, the largest gap, the largest problem in the procurement area is that in 5 out of 6 administrations, so this is only not the case in Bosnia and Herzegovina, there is a special rules, special law, special legislation that essentially introduces exemptions from general procurement legal framework for different kinds of projects, usually the ones that are state-sponsored, considered of high importance for the national development, security reasons, and which pose high transparency and integrity risks to the entire system. Finally, state audit, supreme audit institutions, the high scores in the PFM area are also to a large extent due to high scores here. Regional size are assessed as highly transparent, if not to say fully. Activity and audit reports are easily accessible and regularly published, for the most part citizen-friendly, easily searchable, with nice presentation of findings in the introductions. Interviewees uniformly confirm transparency of their operations. What is perhaps missing, and what we have highlighted in the priorities going forward, is that the external audit data might be in the future open in machine-readable formats to be reused for some useful purposes. At the end, the final slide, to say something about the overall performance. So the average performance, so all administrations, all areas is 40-40. The best one on average is Serbia with 49.5. The last one is, well, Bosnia and Herzegovina with around 32. However, since even for the best ranked administration, the result is below 50% of realization, we really cannot speak of the best and the last, because the differences are from one position to another are actually relatively small. Speaking of the areas, as I said before, the best evaluated area is PFM, and this has not changed from the past monitoring cycles that we have implemented in the previous years, while the worst, so to say, being policy development and coordination, where things not only that they do not improve tangibly, but maybe even go backwards a bit. Thank you a lot for the attention. It was a long presentation, but I take it that you have managed to get a feeling of what is going on in each of these areas. Thank you.
Is this working? Many thanks to all of you. 42 reports in less than 3 years. A library, I would say, for scholars, students, and everyone who wants to read on what's happening in the region in terms of public administration reform. To optimize time, I would prefer to immediately start with our first discussant, Ms. Marija Hajduković. She's with us via Zoom. Ms. Hajduković, welcome to this session. I hope you had the chance to hear the results of the monitoring. They are scattered across the region, but we would like to hear, and it's interesting to hear the perspective of Montenegro being also a front runner in EU enlargement process, and on the other hand, public administration reform being a precondition for accession. So please, the floor is yours to provide your intervention. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you can hear and see me well via the link. And I'm truly sorry that I was not able to be physically present with you on the panel today, but I look forward to meeting you on another occasion. As you already say, as a country recognized as a frontrunner in the European integration process in the Western Balkans, Montenegro continuously demonstrates administrative commitment to adopting European standards. When speaking about transparency in public policy planning, I would particularly like to highlight the data from the latest regional Weber Par monitoring report. In the area of government planning and reporting transparency, Montenegro achieved the best result in the region, placing us significantly above the regional average. Our government's medium-term and annual work programs, as well as the European Union accession programs, are adopted and published regularly and in a timely manner. This data confirms that planning in Montenegro is not done on ad hoc basis. Rather, we measure performance and regularly submit reports on achieved results, which has led to high rating for all reporting system under the Sigma methodology as well. However, if you look at the Weber report holistically, through all of its pillars, it is clear that public administration reform must not be reduced solely to technical planning. The comprehensive Weber monitor teaches us that we must shift our focus from form and the simple adoption of documents to the actual quality of the process and how these policies impact the daily lives of the citizens. And it's precisely within the pillars that analyze policy making in practice, as well as the area of service delivery and digitalization, where Weber locates the key reforms, challenges shared across the entire region, including Montenegro. Proof that Montenegro does not shy away from self-reflection and regularly conduct tracking and monitoring is the latest official government report on the selection NGO representatives, the working bodies, and the conduct of public consultation for 2025, which the Ministry of Public Administration prepared in May this year. My colleague Zorica will later present specific data from this document in more detail, but within this panel I want to point out its systematic and strategic importance. This report is complementary to the findings of the civil sector and the Weber report. It statistically and clearly demonstrates where we made progress in the practice and where systematic challenges remain. This report brings us encouraging but also building facts. We observe exceptional progress in control mechanism. The Ministry of Public Administration has introduced an obligation stating that no draft law can proceed to the government without an accompanying report from the public consultation. Furthermore, many as 19 ministries through the systematization of workplaces, specific officials have been designed exclusively to monitor these processes, thereby strengthening institutional accountability within the administration itself. Nevertheless, as a society striving for the highest European standards, we must openly face the other side, and practical challenges to which the overall better framework draws our attention. And here the data sends a clear signal that we have immense room for improvement. Although we record a positive result in the administration and formal planning, the Weber Monitor notes a serious gap between what is planned and what is implemented, especially regarding public inclusion. Over 75% of citizens in Montenegro still believe they do not have a real opportunity to effectively participate in the drafting of laws and strategies. And why is this the case? The findings of the complete report, although based on the citizens' perception, indicate that citizens and civil society are still not sufficiently included in the early stage of public policy and public service design. Digital tools such as e-government and e-participation portals are in practice still predominantly used as information boards rather than space for live two-way communication. Data from the government report showing that during 2025 years, not a single citizen comment on laws was received via the e-government portal, while ministries proceed over 3,600 suggestions through audit channel and websites clearly tell us that communication channels and e-services must be better promoted, more intuitive and closer to citizens. This is at the same time an opportunity for NGO organizations through their activities and in partnership with public administration institutions to work together on educating and encouraging citizens to exercise their rights. Beyond the state level, we are pleased that these tools are also developing locally. So I take this opportunity to also point out that the capital city new electronic platforms for citizen participation at the local level. Additionally, a broader overview of the weather monitoring reminds us that as a society we must work towards the full affirmation of gender equality. The Montenegro government report for 2025 states that the principle of gender perspective is still applied inconsistently, while Weber explicitly notes that not a single analyzed law during the observed period included an ex-ante gender equality impact assessment. There are the crucial points where our European vision must transform into concrete administrative action. The segment, actually, with my point of view, the segment of public administration reform related to creating policy with citizens and for citizens remains our permanent priority. An external evaluation of the current public administration reform strategy is currently underway with rescue support, and from this platform I would like to announce that we will soon begin working on the new public administration reform strategy in Montenegro. Precisely on the basis of the overall findings of the Weber Power Monitoring, also Sigma recommendation, but also on the basis of concrete inputs from domestic civil society, we will continue to plan strategically. Our goals in the new strategic cycle will be overcome formalism. The participation of civil society and the business sector must not be checklist item, but genuine one's partnership from the early stage of decision making to building a modern, inclusive, and truly European society is a two-way street. Once again, thank you very much, because I'm really have exceptional pleasure to be part of the panel. So I'm here for any additional question or clarification. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Ms. Hajduković. We will for sure come back to you once the discussion is open with the audience. Thank you for also mentioning the gender aspect, very important, and also for recognizing the Weber monitoring results published by our initiative. I'll proceed to my colleague from Kosovo, Mr. Edmir Sejdiu, coming from the Ministry of Public Administration and Digital Transformation. Since I come from the same country, I must pose two sub-questions or highlight 2 points that our report mentions, and that is the minimal consultation platform and inclusiveness. As civil society, we provide a lot of inputs, but really it's very hard to measure that input, how far has it gone and how was it implemented by the institutions, and sometimes that's demotivating. Also, another issue is lack of annual reports. We discussed this also in person today, early in the morning, and many other fields. But yes, in the field of human resource management and public service, we rank first, but not in public finance management, where we rank 5th. But please, Mr. Sejdiu, you have the floor to provide your intervention.
No need? Yeah. So thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here. In fact, I start my speech in the way of the key word here in this conference is perspective. That means we have a different perspective, how we saw those reports, how we saw the results, how we calculated the results, in fact. For example, if we saw the Sigma reports published in 2024, if we have compared situation for Kosovo, if we compare with 2021, Kosovo is one of the better countries in 5 to 6 areas that we have this evaluation process in 2024. I will start with one area, that is public service and human resources management, that we have the limited progress. But in this field, we have 40 points in comparing with 100 points that we should have for this area. But if we compare with Northern Macedonia or the other countries, we are better than them. So that means in this field, we have limited progress, but on the other hand, this field is more better than the other countries if we have compared. So that means you have to mention it and to represent it. Linked with it in your question, in fact, if we have no data, for example, or we don't present those data for the level of implementation of laws, for example, or the data for civil servants. For each year, we have published, prepared, first annual report for public service and human resources management. We published this report, and we have a lot of data here, not just for the level of civil servants, different categories, but for the salaries and stuff like that. So if you read the report, analyze the report, you can find a lot of answers for your questions in this report. And the different areas, for example, in organization, accountability and oversight, as well in public finance management, we are reflected the most important results here in the way of more than 60 points up to 100 that we have in the process. So that means we have good reflect and reporting in institutional organization, control mechanism, transparency, and financial governance. At the same time, we have the better organized with the strategic framework compared to 2021. At that time, we have 4 strategies. And if we solve the big picture of the strategies in public administration reform, you create the perception that we have the 4 strategies that in the same time, the 4 reforms in the same time in one field. What we have done, we have merged this number of the strategies from 4 strategies in 2 strategies. Now we have strategy for public administration reform and strategy for public finance management. That means now we have very well organized. We have this structure in the way of cascade of objectives, and is very well represented by the Sigma report. At the same time, we have the one field that I want to mention here is governance and accountability. Here, we have more than 80 points. We have government accountability, public administration transparency. That means it's more in above the percentage of the area if we compare with the different countries in the region. So, from my perspective, I agree with you that we don't have too much to improve the level of communication with civil society organization, with academia, with businesses, in the time that we created, for example, the strategies, and to have the good communication with them. We have some document in place. We have this systems that we have public consultation. We have prepared all the reports in the process of public consultations, but we think it's not enough, in fact. We have to make this meetings in person with them and to solve their perspective in the different problems that we have. What we have done, in fact, now, we have prepared a concept document, and we propose to the government to create this level of communication with civil society organization. Is consultative forum with civil society organization, with academia, with the businesses, and those should be part of our preparation for each documents, like in laws, strategies and stuff like that. That means we can use those soft skills of organization from civil society organization to go and discuss with different level of the society. In the way of publishing the reports, I agree with you. Most of strategies are prepared and publish the reports, but if we analyze the reports are including to the Office of Prime Minister, for example, yes, we don't have any published reports for their strategies, which is bad, for sure. We cannot say it's good, but let's see how we can move forward. But what Kosovo has, comparing with the different countries, is this way of going to election most than 2 times per year. So that means it's not a level of democracy of if we have difficulties in organizing the elections, but that means, and it's linked with our priorities and activities that we have planned in public administration reform especially. That means we have finalized different laws, different strategies, but we cannot approve by the government because we have the government in duty. That means this reflects in our results. And those results, that means that we have a bad evaluation. So this is the one problem. I will stop here, in fact, if you have another question, but in the way of service delivery, for example, now we have more than 320 public services that are included and published in eKosovo platform. What we have done now, we have stopped the process, but in the end of the year, we have promoting the new eKosovo 2.0. That means we have planned in the end of 2027, 400 new public services should be part of this platform, and that means we have using different AI instruments and tools, so to be more friendly for the citizens and to for sure to save the time, to save the money for the citizens. So this is our new idea. For sure, in the law for public officials, we know the situation that we have in Kosovo. We have those disagreements with the EU office, with the Sigma for sure, in the different level of how we saw that we can organize our public administration. But the good news now is that now we have started new analyze the public law on public officials, and we have to change and to accept those recommendations that we received from EU office and from the Sigma, and yeah, we have to move forward. So I will stop now. So if you have any questions or from audience, I will be here to answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sejdiu. We will come back to you as well with questions in the second period. We have here with us Ms. Aneta Raić from the Public Administration Reform Coordinator's Office from Bosnia and Herzegovina. We have heard the results presented today. One of our colleagues mentioned that Bosnia ranks last in 4 out of 6 fields. What's your overall perception on the results presented today? It's okay, you don't need to push it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, first of all, for the invitation. And yes, we heard that according to civil society, Bosnia and Herzegovina scored last in many areas. However, we appreciate very much Weber's reports, and we use it as much as possible in our reports. Civil society opinions, it's very important to us. Maybe it not looks like that now when we are comparing other countries, but you have to understand that Bosnia and Herzegovina is a very difficult country with many levels of administration, state, entities, district, cantonals, municipalities. Our strategy, PAR strategy, is a countrywide strategy, and it is brings together state, entity, and district level. So it's very important that we took into consideration all levels of government when we preparing strategy, when we are implementing strategy, and when we are monitoring the strategy. So our office is the office who prepares, who implement and monitor PAR strategy in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We are doing since 2007 and preparing annual and semi-annual monitoring reports. Yes, we have difficulties trying to involve civil society in preparation of strategic documents, also to involve in the implementation and in the monitoring. We tried when we are starting preparing current strategy to involve as much as possible civil society, but some subnational levels of government are refused and they are not willing to include civil society in this process. So we will try in the next cycle of preparing a strategy to do it, but the most difficult thing is that we are not obliged by law to include civil society, and this is the thing that is stopping us to involve civil society in a process of consultation on every kind of work. In our monitoring reports, maybe if you read it, you can note that we take into consideration some findings of civil societies as much as possible. Also, consultations that we are providing, it's e-consultation based. It's minimum of 15 days that we are now obliged by law to take, and nothing else oblige us to consult civil society or when we receive comments, but I have to say that we receive 0 or limited number of comments during these e-consultations. Also, there is not some kind of systematized approach to how to answer to those comments. So in the future, in the time to come, we will try to do more systematically, but I have to again repeat that without a law we cannot move forward regarding this. And also, I will not mention all reform areas, but maybe one also that we are scored a bit low is service delivery and digitalization. Maybe now it's time that we mention that also we are facing problems with interoperability, because we have to do one interoperability for the country, and also we have to do interoperability within the country, within subnational levels, and this is our huge now important work to do. Currently we have a project DG that will give some kind of advice in provide some recommendations regarding the laws, and then in the continuation, DG2, who will start, I think, in this summer, we will do and prepare more things, including we will prepare a catalog of services that will be basic for the developing of e-services digitalization, that now we are really low in the implementation. And this is important for citizens, and we know, and I hope that we will, through this finalizing of interoperability framework, that we will put in force this some kind of services that you mentioned during your presentation, that it's really important, and also important for the request for the some kind of European integration process. That's all for now. I'm available for questions if there is.
Thank you, Ms. Raić. Thank you for your intervention. I'll proceed with Mr. Dimovski, coming from the Community Development Institute. I was seeing the results now. My colleagues have sent them, and actually Macedonia ranks first in 2 of the reform areas, which is oversight and accountability and public finance management. But then it performs much less in public service and human resource management and so on. But what's your take on all the results that were presented here today, and from a perspective of civil society as well?
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Arifi. I thank you for the opportunity to be part of this session, where actually the data should speak. And before I answer your question, I would like first to congratulate all the authors of these reports that have meticulously worked to prepare. And of course, special praise must go to Milena and her undeniable decade-long leadership of Weber or Weber, whatever we call it. Thank you, Milena. It was really at least useful resource for all those who wanted to use it. Coming back to your question, I would speak a little bit more country-related at the breakout session on strategy for PAR. Here I wanted to give a little wider picture, and you already see a figure which I prepared, which is basically a summary of what you have heard at the beginning from Miloš and the colleagues, which showed the figures by areas, indicating the best and the worst, but this is the summary. Excluding the 5th area, the 5th report, which was not available to me, the 6th one. So this is based on 5 areas. Obviously, Serbia is the best, Macedonia is second, then it's Albania, if I can see from here, and then Kosovo, and then Montenegro, and then Bosnia. So Montenegro is the front runner in EU integration, but here is pretty much low. So I would leave this here for a while, and for you to just think of it, and maybe later in the discussion we can come back to this. What is my first observation or general observation after I went through the reports, more or less reading or skimming them? The Western Balkans have built the architecture for reforms, but are still struggling to make it deliver. This is probably the most wider observation. The monitoring results point out a very consistent picture across the region, and we can see very moderate progress in strategy development and formal frameworks, but very persistent weakness in implementation, accountability, and citizen impact, which is probably of major importance to us. So despite more of the decade of reforms, and somewhere I read the phrase par fatigue. So probably we are really already tired after so many years dealing with the issue of public administration reforms, and I'm talking both about the administrations and also the citizens or civil service organization. So despite all the reforms, I think that the overall performance remain really really modest. So there are differences, of course, as very well presented by my colleagues at the beginning of the session, difference between the countries. Some of the countries are front runners in some areas, but then they're lagging behind in some others. But in general, even this graph is showing none of the countries is actually going out of this moderate category. The average achievement, to my calculation, is slightly less than 40 or 40%, which means that none of the countries is having a score beyond half of the points which have been designated to different criteria. And this is probably something which both the public administrations, but also the citizens, the civil service organizations should think about what to do in the future. And I would come at the end of my speaking with some ideas. Why are the results so modest? Now I will probably argue that the explanation is not technical. It is political. And I think Mr. Virand this morning touched a bit the issue. So let me highlight three structural factors in this respect. First, reforms are politically accepted, but not fully politically owned. So basically, public administration in the region is strongly linked with the EU integration. And this process of accession has helped most of our governments to formally establish the strategies, the action plans, the methodologies, the compliance framework, and everything. But, and unfortunately, but is very common in our region. In many cases, these reforms remain externally driven. So it's EU accession, of course, rather than internally prioritized in terms of political priorities. We heard this morning our minister for public administration from Macedonia, and he was basically, he just actually confirmed what I was already prepared to say since yesterday, that this is the situation. I mean, he again expressed the political will, but at the end of the day, you don't see anything happening. So this creates a situation where governments adopt reforms, but do not always invest political capital in implementing them fully. The result is what we might call surface compliance, which means high formal compliance, but unfortunately very low transformational change. Second structural factor for me is reform collides with entrenched interests. Many of the reforms promoted even here in this fora required merit-based recruitment, transparency, accountability, but they directly challenge existing system of political control and patronage. And this is the most problematic issue. This matters. because when the reform threatens power structure or structures, what we observe is selective implementation, meaning that reforms move forward where they are politically neutral, but very slow where they affect control over administration. And this probably explains why progress is often strongest in formal frameworks and weakest in actual practice. And the third aspect I want to point is weak accountability and limited pressure for results. Though common assumption, at least even in the organization, but especially with the general public, is that the region is lacking capacity. The real key issue is not the lack of capacity, it's the absence of accountability mechanisms. Because even where the strategies are in place, we see responsibilities which are fragmented, performance which are not consistently tracked, or consequences for underperformance which are limited. Sigma principles clearly basically say that clear accountability and coordination are essential for reform success. But in practice, this is still not fully realized in the region. So what does this mean going forward? If we take the regional findings seriously, and we should, then the message is quite clear. The Western Balkans do not have a knowledge gap, but a design gap. The region knows very well what public administration looks like. The region can design strategies very well. The region is capable to produce complex legal frameworks, but it is in implementation and incentive gap. So let me conclude with 3 shifts that could avoid power fatigue and help move forward. First, we need to move from compliance to performance. We need to move beyond checking whether strategies exist and focus on whether they produce measurable outcomes for citizens. Second, we need to move from consultation to co-creation. Participation, and I will speak more on this in the breakout session after this one, needs to become much earlier. It is the impression and also findings of the monitoring are saying that the CSOs and the general public are included but quite late in the process. The participation also needs to be more meaningful, more influential, which means that institutionalizing the role of civil society in both design and monitoring of reforms. And the third suggestion I think we should take into consideration for the future is we need to move from fragmented responsibility to clear accountability. I firmly believe that reforms need clear ownership, strong central coordination, and trust me, when I talk about strong central coordination, I know what I'm talking because I was head of the center of the government for 2 years. Then transparent performance tracking. Without this, even well-designed reforms will continue to under-deliver. And let me finish with one simple point. The modest or moderate results we see in the PAR monitor are not a failure of methodology. They are a reflection of reality. Thank you very much. And I hope that we are still not so much hungry that we could have some discussion.
Thank you. Thank you all for being efficient. We started a bit late, so apologies to all. But I would still want to take 1 to 2 questions. I promise we'll finish in 5 to 7 minutes, but if you have any question, please do so and we'll get them. Yes? Chair Doran? Do you have a question or?
No, not me.
Okay. Please don't forget that we have Ms. Hajduković with us as well online.
One very short question from me, and mostly for the colleagues from the administrations. Can you tell us honestly what are the reactions in your offices and especially among the management when they see these reports which show that your country is doing worse on something or is doing better on something? Does this regional benchmarking stimulate positive competition or does it just create frustration?
Thank you, Milena. I'm very sorry to be a bad cop, but please take your floor efficiently. Thank you. We can start with Ms. Hajduković and go forward as the agenda says.
In case of Montenegro, no, these reports don't frustrate us. Actually, we usually, of course, in daily way communicate with colleagues from the region, also share our challenges and results. And usually we use all these reports and challenges to try to improve all strategic planning and to communicate with all stakeholders to create quality of the strategic planning, also quality monitoring, and try to improve all pillars in the public administration reform.
Thank you, Ms. Hajduković. Edmir?
Yeah, for sure. Every time that the reports reflect the real situation in place, that means they cannot create this level of not accepting the reality. But every time they reflect, for sure, this can work in our perspective from Kosovo, for sure, just to move forward, to analyze the problems, to analyze the reason why we don't fulfill those obligations that we have, and why we can move forward and how to find a better way. So yeah, it's not in the negative aspect. We cannot expect.
Ms. Raić, would you like to reflect on Milena's question?
The question is, do they read it at all?
Yeah.
In most cases, who are directly working on monitoring and reporting, we are reading, but our bosses, you can warn them, but no huge reaction are received. And maybe it's a good thing that our politicians got this report and read it and discuss, and maybe politicians should be invited on those kind of workshops, meetings, conferences, and just they have to put in their heads that it is important to listen to citizens' opinions. What we are doing, as I mentioned before, that we are trying to include as much as possible, but it is nothing if they don't want to accept some kind of thinking of people.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Dimovski, I guess this question does not apply to you, not coming from the institution, but if you have a perspective, please.
Actually, I wanted to continue to what my colleague from Bosnia said about the politicians, the ministers, to participate and to go to workshops and trainings. One former UK Prime Minister actually managed to create such a mechanism. So he would organize a working breakfast whenever there was important report to be presented or new policy to be presented or whatever. And at that working breakfast, the ministers would listen to the presentation, and of course when they would see the numbers, whatever they are showing, then they would certainly react one or another way. Otherwise, when I was in the administration, from the perspective of the civil servants, the reaction usually would be, yeah, this is reality. The politicians would react, depends on the number. If they fit them, then fine, they would praise, they would, the PR machinery would work out that. If they're negative, then again the peer machinery would try to make them positive. So, but basically, I think the people are accepting this, and this is not good. People are accepting the reality with no interest anymore. I think this is the situation where we are at the moment.
Thank you, thank you. I'm instructed that we have 2 more minutes. I see another question, if you're able to do it fast.
Yes. Hello, I'm Haris Chutahia from, sorry. Hello everyone, I'm Haris Chutahia from FBI BH, and I'm from Bosnia and Herzegovina, the country that has diverse results that have been shown. My question will be mostly political. We know that Bosnia and Herzegovina is not doing so good. I think that's my personal opinion, that it's actually a direct result of the lack of the political will, which is also a direct result of the lack of pressure on the political representatives in our country, because we have seen that some of the pressure went in the direction of public service, and we have seen some nice examples how things changed. Miloš has mentioned a couple of them. So my question will be directed to the representatives of maybe Montenegro and Serbia, the countries that has had better results than us. So what did you do to have that political will? If we exclude the pressure from, I don't know, European Union, and thank you.
Thank you, Haris. We have Ms. Hajduković from Montenegro here who can briefly answer that question.
Yes, I actually think importance of this question. Actually, all of us who is directly related to PAR administration reform knows importance of the public administration reform, and that public administration reform is the fundamental rights for all citizens. But in Montenegro cases and our experience show us that now we in the final phases of the EU negotiation process, actually then put public administration as a criteria under the Chapter 23. Public administration have much more visibility and political support, because all EU integration process show us that the over 40 benchmarkers in all chapters in the related for the PAR reform, special administrative capacity, transparency and quality of public policies. So political support is important, and now in government Montenegro under the Chapter 23, regularly monitoring all operational conclusion between Montenegro and European Commission. And yes, I think that is important for political support for better implementation or strategic document related to PAR reform.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hajduković. I hope that answered your question, Haris. With this, I would like to conclude this discussion by thanking all the panelists present here today, also Ms. Hajduković and all the participants for joining us. We have lunch, so please enjoy lunch afterwards.
Thank you all. Goodbye.
Thank you all. We are nearing our lunch break. Because we are running slightly behind the schedule, lunch will last until 2:30. After which we kindly ask you to join us as we move into the first round of breakout sessions where participants dive deeper into the PAR monitor findings across specific thematic areas. 3 sessions will run in parallel. After lunch, we kindly ask you to make your way to your chosen session. Each room is labeled with the session title on a small monitor in front of it, and all the rooms are on this floor. So our first round of sessions are Session A, Strategy for PAR, in room Shonda 2. Session B, Policy Development and Coordination, in this room. Session C, Public Service and Human Resource Management, in room Shonda 1. After which we have a 15-minute coffee break and dive straight into round 2, which will consist of Session D, Organization, Accountability, and Oversight, in room Shonda 1. Session E, Service Delivery and Digitalization, in this room. Session F, Public Financial Management, in room Shonda 2. We would also like to use this opportunity to warmly invite you to join us for a networking reception and dinner this evening at 7:30 here on the first floor in the Donji Dorčol conference room. You can find all information in the agendas, which are available on paper or via the QR code on the back of your ID cards. Now please join us in the restaurant on the ground floor. Enjoy.